Hello, I'm Simon Hitchens, an independent damp and timber surveyor, RICS qualified expert witness and PCA qualified damp and timber surveyor. I just want to talk to you about ventilation. It's the most critical part of a damp survey. Most damp surveys, in my case probably about 90-95% of damp surveys, include a ventilation assessment. Only really in the summertime when we're perhaps looking more at dry rot, woodworm, will we not consider to do a full ventilation assessment. The fundamental to a ventilation assessment is testing the vent speed, and this is an anemometer, and I'll be testing it up against the vent. These are calibrated and give actual speeds which you can then compare to requirements under building regs. It's actually very simple and easy for any homeowner, builder, or even just a general surveyor to test with some cheap and easy, inexpensive anemometers. For example, this one. Somewhere around a third to 50% of the claimed rising damp cases are actually caused by poor ventilation, and the only way you'll know that is by testing the vents out. There are four common problems. One is a short overrun, whereby lights are turned on, the vent comes on, and lights are turned off, vent comes off, and perhaps there's no window, there's no way of the humid air to come out. 90%, possibly 95% of humidity remains in the room after the occupier has left. So unless the vent is kept running it should be kept running for the full 30 minutes, but at least 20 minutes after the switch is turned off, then you're going to end up having humidity in the room that will redistribute itself around the property. I know there are some surveyors that believe in purging the vent out, the bathroom or the whole house out for half an hour every day, but do people do that? I don't think so, and I really recommend making sure that the vent is overrunning for half an hour. We use a humidistat, which is humidity activated, so it will come on and off for longer. But even that isn't great, and we have a switch on it, so if that's switched off at any time, then it's not going to come on anyway. So there are four key issues. One is the overrun. The second one is just simply the speed isn't working, there's insufficient speed. The third one is there is an obstruction well, in fact, the obstruction is going to affect the speed, so that's really the third one. The fourth is where you have a leak within the system. So for instance, if you've got ducting, if you've got the flexible ducting, which isn't very good anyway, but anyway, the flexible ducting and it's got a tear in it, then the air is going to come out of the tear and you're not going to be aware of it. Many is the time that I've discovered properties with, in fact, the ducting going into the roof void and then no vent coming out of the roof void. So it's just circulating around the roof void, probably coming back down again, creating mould and a risk of rot and woodworm in the roof on the roof void. The other one is where you have two vents that are joined and going out, so you end up having the air being drawn out of one and it will go out of the path of least resistance. So if the outside is the path of least resistance, that could be fine, but a lot of the time it's just going in from one bathroom and out into the other bathroom and not going outside. And I've come across an example where somebody's painted the vent on the outside and you had two bathrooms, beautiful property, spent about £250,000 on redecorating it. A few years later, renovating it, should I say, a few years later, had mould everywhere. They also had a hygroscopic salts, but that's another story. My recommendations for extractor fan is to have a light switch operated strong extractor fan with set to have a 30-minute over-iron. Normally they're set up with like a couple of minutes, so you have to change the setting. Don't allow your builder to just put it straight in. Change it to 30 minutes. It's very easy to do. Just take the cover off, turn a dial, and it's all set up. I'll show you in future videos how to do it. But keep it simple, light switch operated, half an hour overrun. Don't go for complicated things like PIV, positive ventilation systems. They're untargeted. They can occasionally work. They've got fantastic marketing material. They can occasionally work. Generally continuous flow, just avoid it. It's complicated and normally it doesn't work. The cost of retrofitting it is, and the impact that it has on carbon emissions is much greater than a simple vent will ever cause you. It comes on half an hour, it extracts the humid air at source. The most important thing, take the maximum amount of humid air at source. First half an hour after the shower. I'll show you some graphs in future videos, but take it from me, the majority of humidity is released after you've left the room. And if you don't have the vent running, and don't make the mistake of having the door open, because that will then just diffuse the humidity. Of course the bathroom is nice and dry afterwards, but the rest of the house or flat is covered in mould and dampness, so just don't have the door open. Common mistake. So avoid PIV, avoid heat recovery systems. Great marketing, don't work. I go to a lot of mouldy properties with them in, just as I do with PIV systems. I'm sure some of them do work, but it's the targeting that's the problem. If you you pull the humidity from source, then it will work best. You can have a window open, but again, have the door closed. Keep it simple. Best philosophy in life. I don't get any money from anyone for putting forward my best vents. I'm going to show it shortly, but which I'll update. I make no money from it. It's just experience. Plenty of vent companies have tried to entice me with commercial offers, with providing clients XYZ. I'm just not interested. I have more than enough clients. It's the same as rising damp. It doesn't make a fig of difference to me whether rising damp exists or not. I just care the fact that people are ruining their properties, injecting chemicals when the solution is just to change update the vent or adjust it. During surveys, I will normally solve most of the damp problems. It's not because I don't get paid anything more for it. It's just it only takes about 5 minutes to solve most of the damp issues, particularly a vent system that's not working. You can normally double the speed by just cleaning it. Simple as 5 minutes, and you've doubled the speed. Often there are obstructions that you can just eliminate, get rid of. So it's incredibly simple. Most of the time I solve the damp issues during the survey. There are probably 5 or 6 typical things like blocked hoppers, vents, and subfloor bricks that are blocked, and of course you get ventilation in the subfloor. But that's another subject. But keep it simple, keep these running. I have a humidistat. I don't believe in them. I don't think they're very good, but I do it because I can look after it, and I can, and I just want to try it. I try lots of different systems out all the time, constantly. The ideal anemometer is made by Testo. Ideally, you should be around 50 for most properties, but a cheaper version is just a simple anemometer that you might use for sailboarding, for instance. and here this is the meter reading. You can put it onto, you can set it with a maximum there, and then you just measure that, and you'll find in this case 3.3, you multiply by a factor of about 10.